Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakarakin. And on Street Talk, we deal with political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. And tonight, my guest.
Dennis Burnside.
Okay, we've got a lot to talk about, but you want to talk a little bit about Middle East?
Yeah, I think it's at a very dangerous inflection point. We could be looking at an expanding war with implications that'll be worldwide. We're already starting to see some economic turbulation because of the harassment by Houthi rebels against shipping going through the Suez Canal into the Red Sea. And that's where most of the shipping that comes from east to west goes through. Otherwise, it's a very long route around the southern tip of Africa. And a lot of companies are making the decision to take that long route because they don't want to put their people and property in peril. Now, it seems at this point the Houthis are using this to harass, to make a point. But we have not seen any diminishment of their tactics. The U.S. military has responded a few times with targeted attacks, apparently with minimal effect in terms of killing people. But the situation that we had last week, I believe it was last Sunday, where we had three American soldiers killed, that upped the ante quite a bit. And since then, what we've seen is an increase in the friction, an increase in the United States involvement. They had something like 82 sorties that hit, 82 different locations that were hit by sorties in a way that directly involves the U.S. military, which, again, is a dangerous inflection point. It's one thing to support what's going on, supplying Israel with arms and munitions and support on the international scene like at the UN. It's another thing for the United States to get in and start firing shots.
Yeah, and one of the things is that they at the edge of two more countries.
Yeah,
you know? So they're trying to keep them, from getting in a war with Iraq.
Well, the targets that they cited and hit were in Syria and Iraq.
Yeah.
And Iraq is more or less a U.S. proxy now. Their government has been installed and controlled by the United States for the most part since the ending of the Iraqi war. But they're making little noise about, hey, you need to chill, you need to back up a little bit. And, of course, Syria has been in the crosshairs for over a decade now between the East, Russia, and the United States.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest danger that we see now is Iran just yesterday said that of all the attacks that the United States levied against these positions in Syria and Iraq, they didn't kill a single soldier. So we're not going to respond now. But they kind of left it open as if to say, if this continues to escalate, we reserve the right to defend ourselves. And the problem is, Ahmad, Iran is not Iraq. Iran is not Syria.
Right.
Iran is not Lebanon. It's not a client state like Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Iran has an advanced military. They have an air force. They have a navy.
Yeah.
They have a huge army, well-trained.
Yeah.
They're technologically advanced. They have a hypersonic missile, which, we know that China, Russia, North Korea, and now Iran has these hypersonic missiles, which are supposed to be able to fly at such a speed they're almost impossible to stop. Now, I don't know this, but I believe if they have these type of munitions, the United States certainly does too.
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
a hypersonic missile shot at a U.S. target, say a Navy battleship or frigate or whatever, now you're talking about war.
Yeah.
And we're real close to that position right now.
Yeah. And one of the things that they were saying is that these Houthis, they are saying, long as the people in Israel, long as they are being treated the way they are, and what's 27,000
Around
killed?
27,000 killed.
27,000
killed. Depending on the source, somewhere between 37 and 45% of all the buildings in Gaza have been destroyed.
Yeah.
It looks as if the IDF is deliberately targeting hospitals, refugee camps, schools, and you also have a dispute about the UN's arm that goes in and funds and feeds emergency apparatus they have. I forget the name of it now off the top of my head, where you have enough leverage within the UN between the United States and its proxies to say that we're not going to fund this UN emergency apparatus, which is the only thing that's feeding those people. They're down to a minimum calorie per day average for children just to survive. Well below what they need to grow and thrive. Well below what they need to be able to develop their intellect. And we are right now on the cusp of a mass starvation event. And I'm telling you, Ahmad, where we stand right now, as you and I speak, we're right on the edge of something very perilous and dangerous happening. If you go back to the start of the war, October 7th, I think the last time we met and did this show was in early October. We just kind of mentioned it as memory serves. Well, a lot of things have happened since then. But if you go back to the initiation of the war, you had Hamas come across the border, which for some reason was left unprotected. You had these Hamas rebels or troops or defenders, depending on your perspective, go into the to these they call them kibbutzes, but it's really like a colony where people come together and grow their own food and take care of one another. You saw the military, which used to stock 25 soldiers at each one of those, move them out. It took hours for the IDF to respond in a way of acknowledging that they knew that there was an invasion going on, and it took another 24 hours before they moved in there. So it seemed very dubious to me if someone wanted to make the case for me that Netanyahu wanted this war because it gave him political cover, because he's so unpopular. It was on the verge of being removed. If someone made that argument to me and said, yeah, they wanted this to happen, I wouldn't argue with them.
I wouldn't either, because, right now he's got more leverage right now, but it's still lots of Israeli men don't like him.
Oh yeah. It's a conundrum for his opposition because right now is not the time to change leadership.
Right.
The same peril that we see, they see it up close and personal. They're there. They're there in Tel Aviv. They're there in Jerusalem. They know that any distraction away from their focus on the war could be catastrophic for them. On the other hand, Hamas, which ostensibly was located in tunnels this entire time, we're starting to see, this is 3 months now, we're starting to see a fierce resistance from Hamas. They're up and out in the open, and they're fighting back. And they're starting to inflict casualties on the IDF. And it looks as if all that rubble that has been created by the indiscriminate bombing, and that's a quote from President Biden, has created an environment which is hell on earth for civilians, but ideal for a hit and run type army, which is using kind of the same tactics that the Vietnamese used when you were in Vietnam. Hit and run, don't stand out in the open.
Yeah. One of the things is that I'm a long ways from knowing what was what and all this different stuff. But to me, for them to get into this kind of a war, and the whole city's torn down. It just don't make sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It seems to me that the objective is to extract the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip altogether, to move them out of there and claim that territory for Israel.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
If it was strictly to eradicate Hamas, you would use much more surgical, tactical type of strategies. But just to bomb indiscriminately and to deliberately cite and target hospitals as targets when at first they denied it.
Yeah.
And then they admit it. And I think there's only one fully functioning hospital left in Gaza. Speaks to me to the likelihood that what they're looking to do is create an environment where you have a genocide followed by an exodus of the population out of that area to be claimed by Israel as their own once and for all. Yeah. And, I saw an interview the other day that really touched my heart. It was a older woman. I would say she was in her 60s to maybe mid-70s, Palestinian woman, educated in America. Very fluent. She said she was fluent in 4 or 5 languages. Her English was almost without accent. And she said, "This is my home.
Yeah.
My parents were great-great-grandchildren of people who bought the property that we all lived in. And they were forced out in 1948.
Yep.
And we've never forgotten the fact that settler colonialism forced us out of our home, and here we are almost 70 years later in the same conundrum, which day by day is only getting worse.
Yeah.
But we're not going to act as if we're the problem. We were just living our lives, and then we were invaded, and we were forced off our land. Now, people justify it. They use theological arguments. They use historical myth. They use what they call moral justification because of what happened to the European Jews in World War II. And that's all fine and good. But what happens is you've got an entire generation of young people now, between 18 and 40, who are raised on the notion that all people are deserving of rights, of human rights.
Right.
It doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter what your sexual identity is. It doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what nationality you are. You have certain inalienable human rights that were granted to us by the Creator, or just by a moral compass. And these young people are not being swayed by the old arguments that they're all terrorists. I've heard representatives of the Israeli government say that anyone living in Gaza is to be treated as a terrorist. And you can see it. I mean, you've seen people targeted while they went to pray. Two Christian women, because there's a fair amount of Christians in Gaza, went into a church to pray. And they were shot at and harassed all the way in until they got in the building. And finally, they were both killed. We saw a situation where 3 Israeli citizens who had been kidnapped and held hostage by Hamas were released, came out, deliberately removed their shirts so they could be easily seen to not have any weaponry, waving a white flag, and the IDF shot them all to death. And there is a notion out there that Netanyahu wants more bloodshed, wants more tragedy, because again, that gives him political cover and gives him the ability to carry out his objectives. So young people are seeing this, Ahmad. And it doesn't matter, you know, my daughter at U of M has participated in protests. My daughter at Cal Berkeley tells me she sees them all the time. You could go to every campus, almost every campus in the United States, even in the South, and you see people who say this just is not right, and we can't stand by idly while this genocide occurs. And of course, that has implications on United States politics in the coming election. You're starting to see a diminishment of support for Biden among key demographics. Dearborn, which has the biggest Arab population anywhere in the country, they've had a huge loss of support for Biden. And what these people are saying, and you see the same thing on the college campuses. They're saying, yeah, I'm a progressive. Yeah, I believe in Keynesian economics, and we love what Biden is doing with student loan debt forgiveness, his infrastructure bills, which are putting people to work, his support of the unions, his efforts to expand Obamacare even further. Love all that. But that's all trumped by, pardon the Trump pun, that's all trumped by the idea that the United States of America supports genocide of a people. Doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter where they are. Genocide is genocide, and genocide is inherently evil. And that's one of the biggest problems that we're going to be facing coming forward.
The thing that gets me, what time you got?
I've got 4:30, so we've got about 15 minutes.
The thing that and you know, we won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but the thing is that we're talking black right now. In the other election, Trump got 10% blacks, 10 to 11 or what, 12, 18, like that. Now, I was reading this 3 months ago. They were saying that this time he's going to get 20% of blacks. And maybe you know something that I don't know about these blacks. Now, going to support a man that hates your guts. This man hate blacks' guts, you know. Look what he did in 76, you know. He wouldn't let them move in the apartments. And the guys that went to jail for raping this lady, they was cleared and everything after doing times in jail, got out, and he still wanted them back in jail.
Yeah, after they're exonerated, he ran a full-page ad in the New York Times saying they ought to be, if not executed, put in jail for life. So, you know, he's pandering to the lowest common denominator of society. That's what he does successfully. And I'm just as a loss for an explanation as you are why so many young black men support Donald Trump. The last demographic breakdown I saw was like 23% of young black men plan to vote for Donald Trump. And I heard some of the reasons, and it had absolutely nothing to do with reality. He's strong. He's tough. He's not going to let us get pushed around. I'm like, dude, he had a 4-year trial. Did you see what happened then? Do you recall what he said about you and your kind and anyone who is not a reflexive, robotic follower of him? Because he's got a cult. His followers are pretty much do or die, ride or die. Whatever he says is fine with them. That's their man. You know, that's their thing. But I don't understand it. Now, if you look at the support of black women for Donald Trump, it's only like 3%. which is almost surrounding air.
Yeah.
It's young black men.
Yeah.
And young black men have been selected or targeted to benefit from some of these economic policies that Biden has implemented. These infrastructure bills where they're laying down broadband and building highway and bridges, and his support of the unions. They're talking about good paying six-figure jobs where no college education is needed.
Yeah.
A president who seems to be responsive to the needs of the community.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they're impressed by Trump. And I can't understand it. So I think both you and me got a question mark over our
The
head.
other day, I was talking to some young guy at the LOI, and he was, well, the thing that Biden doing, they getting these cars now where you won't need gas, but they not working no way. I said, well, hey, it takes a long time to get to that, where we won't need a lot of gasoline for cars, you pull up to a place and charge it up and you're ready to go.
I sometimes I wish I was with you, because it seems like when I see you at the Y, I never hear any of these conversations, because I'd have went in on dude, man. I mean, right now, as we speak, the United States government subsidizes the fossil fuel industry to the rate of $46 billion a year. A highly profitable, huge market industry that needs no government assistance whatsoever is getting $46 billion in supplements. Meanwhile, the movement to electrical cars is being pushed by the market. It's what people want. It's what people are demanding.
Yeah.
People are becoming more and more aware of the dangers of a lot of things that we took for granted. You think back to the early 60s. In the early 60s, there was something like 7,000 studies that showed that cigarettes cause cancer. They were a existential threat to anyone who smoked them. But they were still advertised on TV as something to help you relax, and doctors said, at the end of the day, have a Lucky Strike or a Camel, whatever, it's good for you. So just marketing. Didn't have anything to do with reality. Now here we are, and we know that meat, for example, is a carcinogen, especially processed meat.
Yeah.
We know that these factory farms where they're producing the pork and the beef and the chicken are horrendous for the environment. Causes greenhouse gas almost to the same level as automotive greenhouse gas because of the methane that's released. The water pollution, the ground pollution, the cruelty to the animals who are raised to be butchered and killed. The damage to the rainforest because of the huge demand for beef all over the world, which is being satisfied by Brazilian cattle farmers, or whatever you call them. We can look at all this damage that's being caused that could be ameliorated, if not eliminated altogether, just by converting people to a sensible diet. Well, I look at the same thing with this discussion about electric cars. This young man is talking about this issue as if Biden snaps his finger and says, GM, Ford, Chrysler, or whatever the name is now, you stop making gas-powered cars by my fiat. That's not how it works. They see what the market is demanding. They see what the future looks like. They want to get there and meet the demand so they can continue to sell, because they know if they don't, someone else will. It's just strictly market dynamics.
And
so where your guy's coming from, man, again, I don't understand.
And the thing about it, he so I kept asking him. I said, well, Trump was in there 4 years. What did he do? How many minutes we got?
5.
I said, what did he do? I mean, he was in there. What did they do besides other than give the billionaires more money? What else did he do? Well, he never could get it out.
No. There's nothing to get out.
No.
He had one major legislative achievement, and that was a huge tax cut for the wealthy. and it added something like $8 trillion to the deficit in one single term, with nothing else to show for it other than increased debt.
Yeah.
But people, Ahmad, it just goes to show the power of propaganda. When you have Fox News, when you have OAN and some of these other off-brand right-wing TV networks, when you have hate radio, which you cannot find progressive voices on AM stations anywhere.
No.
When you have social media sending out these memes and these just outright lies. Let's just call them what they are.
Yeah.
People are impressed by that. They're affected by that. They're persuaded by that. And it reminds me of Joseph Goebbels of Nazi ill fame, who said, the bigger the lie, the bigger the impact.
Yeah.
Just tell the lie and tell it repetitively, and people will believe it because they want to believe it. And that's what we're facing here.
Yeah, that's what Trump, it's like he never did want to give up on being the president.
No.
No. And I seen the thing last week, and I really hope. I was asking a guy why did he see it? No, I didn't see it because it was on PBS. And that's the reason. It's like it's a lot of things to see on PBS. A lot of stuff to learn about watching PBS. And I watch PBS a lot, but I don't have all these different channels and everything. But I was talking to him about it. It's like, take a moment to learn something, And
he should watch that documentary. I think it's called Democracy in Peril.
Yeah.
I watched it last week, and it talks about the January 6th occurrence and what led up to it and what's followed it.
Yeah.
And it was all by design.
Mm-hmm.
It was a stepwise approach. Well, we tried this, that didn't work. So we're going to try this didn't work. Oh, we can't get that. The courts are against us. Okay, I guess what we're going to do is we're just going to stop the transition of power, and we're going to use Mike Pence as our avatar to say that I don't have the confidence that these votes had happened in certain states, most of them red.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That we can't have this election go the way it's been decided by the citizens.
Right.
And when Pence would not go along, that really could put the kibosh to the whole thing. But they talk about how Trump sat on his hands.
Oh yeah.
Didn't do a thing to stop the insurrection.
No.
And all the statements he made implicating himself in this plan. And it's obvious on his face what happened. We had a president try to take power by a coup d'etat.
Yeah.
And use an insurrection. And, we've seen a gradual increase. Merritt, the Attorney General, has the courage of an ant, but he went after the people who broke in. He went after the people who rioted that day. But over the months and years since then, we're starting to see major players go to jail. Just last week, we saw one of Trump's right-hand men, the guy who coined the phrase "the Green Bay Sweep."
Yeah.
I forget his name, escapes me at the moment. And now Trump's on deck for his trial.
Yeah.
And God help us. God help us if that man's not convicted. If he's not convicted, we have just decided that the two-tier system of justice that we see for the most part throughout society has expanded to the point now where we have royalty.
Yeah.
We have a monarch. We have a dictator. We have a king.
Yeah.
And whatever he says, that's what goes.
And that's what he think. That's what he believes right now. He believes that he, anything he do is okay.
Well, he needs to believe that.
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power. And I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.